Alright guys, welcome back to the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles, and it looks like the menu is switched off to Briar Road now. So, we're continuing on with the new investigation of this case we're doing, and we're gonna see how it goes, guys. I hope you all continue to enjoy watching, and let's get to it. Alright guys, and we're back. And we're gonna continue on speaking with Gregson over here. I believe that's his name. Who did you hear that name from? Oh, well, it was Mr. Natsume who mentioned it. He said that Mr. Sholmes was with the police when they entered his lodgings. I'm sure it was the result of one of Mr. Sholmes' inspirational great deductions. Fiddle-faddle. The man's an amateur, and I'm getting sick and tired of him showing his mug everywhere. Oh. I don't know where he gets his information from, but he turns up at the scene of the crime, wanders around spouting incomprehensible rubbish, and before you know it, he claims to have solved the case. Yes, he's quite astounding, isn't he? He is a great help to Scotland Yard, though, isn't he? Gibble gabble. Ever seen this before? Oh, yes, that's Rand's magazine. The wonderful publication in which the adventures of Sherlock Sholmes appears. Yes, well, that wonderful publication, as you put it, sees fit to include several of the Yard's detectives in its stories. And the so-called great detective makes a mockery of all of us. If you ask anyone at the Yard, it's a misadventure to be included in any Sherlock Sholmes tale at all. Well, I suppose there is an element of that. We work our socks off, every one of us, only to be frumped by the public thanks to that obnoxious detective. The man is as dangerous to us at Scotland Yard as he is to all our criminals. That can't really be true, can it, Inspector? Clearly, the great detective and the police have a complex relationship. Alright, what about tomorrow's trial? That twitchy Japanese bloke goes on trial tomorrow. Are you going to defend him or not? Well, makes no difference to me, but I will say just this. No London lawyer worth his salt would touch that case with a barge pole. Because the prosecution is being handled by the Reaper of the Bailey, you mean? There's no way to save the man now. It's a waste of time trying. It is all a bit strange, though. Sorry? The Reaper. He hasn't appeared in court once for a good few years now. Yes, we did hear something to that effect. And the only people he usually bothers with are the real scum, the master criminals, the violent ones. Master criminals? The violent ones? That's right, he handpicks his victims, only deals with those guaranteed to go to the gallows for their sins. But Mr. Natsume would hang for what he's accused of, surely. Oh, sorry, wouldn't. That's just my point, Sunshine. Yes, the young woman was stabbed, but it didn't kill her. Couldn't even say the intent was there. So, this isn't the sort of case I'd be expecting the Reaper to want to sink his teeth into, for want of a better phrase. Well, it's not exactly a minor infraction, is it? No, there's got to be more to it. Some reason he's taken an interest. Really? What sort of reason, Inspector? You think I can tell what's going on inside the head of that Lord of Darkness? You'll have to ask him yourself at tomorrow's trial. Are we really going to have to face the Reaper again? The Lord of Darkness, as he put it? Well, I don't think we're going to get any more useful information out of the detective. Mr. Naruhodo, can I make a suggestion? Oh, yes, what is it? Well, it seems to me that we must speak with him about this. Oh, I have a feeling I know who he is. By him, do you mean Mr. Sholmes? Yes, Mr. Sherlock Sholmes, exactly. Look at those shining eyes. You can't wait, can you? Well, Mr. Natsume did blame Mr. Sholmes for all of this, didn't he? Yes, he did. He really did. Which makes him an involved party in the case. Are you just gonna ignore that? I hope not. I assure you, it's not simply a selfish desire to meet with Mr. Sholmes again. The trouble is, we have it. It's Baker Street. How do you know that? It's in the stories, of course. 221B Baker Street, the most famous address in the world. Oh, I see. Well, there's nothing to stop us from going, I suppose. We better try to find our way there before Susato-san gets any more excited and unpredictable. Hurrah! I'll summon the carriage. So we're to have a reunion already. With the great detective, Mr. Herlock Sholmes. Alright, well, I guess we're done with this. We'll be moving now. A new location has been added. Well, no kidding. Sholmes is sweet.
Thank you very much.
It's just up there overlooking the street. Good day.
Thanks again. This is it. The residence of Mr. Herlock Sholmes.
February 19th, 12:53 p.m., Sholmes' suite. So, this is where the great detective makes his living. It feels surreal to be here somehow. Whoa. Is it as described in the stories, Mr. Sato? Susato-san? Many famous cases have been solved here in this very room. Oh, I suppose they must have been, yes. I've never read the story, so it's hard to get quite as excited about it as she seems to be. The detective chases the villain relentlessly as he disappears into the fog down an unlit London street. Oh, the thrill of it, the romanticism. Can't you feel your heart thumping in your chest? Can't you, Mr. Naruhodo? Oh, I suppose I can, yes. So, if you don't mind, I'll just stand here and soak up the atmosphere for a while longer. Please don't mind me. She's obsessed. Well, it looks like our detective friend isn't home at present. Excuse me, is anybody home? Oh, do we have a visitor? Hello? Is it a big new case for Mr. Sholmes? Hello? Wait, aren't you? Oh, how rude of me. I'll go and make some tea at once. I'm sure it's the same girl. Mr. Sato, did you see the girl who was just here? Oh yes, isn't it truly extraordinary? To think that the King of Bohemia came to this very room to ask Mr. Sholmes to take on his case. The King of Where-ia? King Wilhelm Gottfried, oh my god, hold on. Gottfried Sigismund, oh my god, I'm ruining this name, man, I'm butchering it. Alright, King Wilhelm Gottfried Sigismund von Ormstein, of course. Oh man, I feel bad. Sorry, I'm drawing a blank. Forget the adventures of Herlock Sholmes for a moment and look over there. The tea's brewed and I have freshly baked cake as well. Ah, it's you. I knew it. Susato-san recognized her too. The inventor? I've never met a lawyer from the Far East before. Poor you, having to get straight to work when you've only just arrived in London. Oh, yes, it was challenging. Well, try this tea. It's my special blend, you know? Oh, thank you. Is tea supposed to look that color? Oh my, what a fragrant yet mellow flavor. Hooray, it's a winner! I tried blending different leaves designed to alleviate fatigue, you see. You must be exhausted after your long voyage here, and you have another ticklish trial tomorrow. Oh, and you're to defend the Japanese man. I do wish you lots of luck. Did Mr. Sholmes tell you about us by any chance? Oh, You know Hurley, do you? Hurley. Mr. Sholmes to you, Shirley? Mr. Sholmes was a fellow passenger on the boat that brought us to Great Britain, you see. Was he really? Well, I had no idea. I'm afraid Hurley's on an errand again today, even though he's just returned from overseas. Wait a minute. We met this girl for the first time ever yesterday after the trial, and only briefly at that. How on earth does she know so much about us? Did she deduce all those things, do you think? And perhaps more to the point? Why is she here in Mr. Sholmes' suite? Oh, silly me. I haven't introduced myself, have I? It's a great pleasure to meet with you both. My name is Iris Wilson. I live here together with Hurley. Ah, Iris, is it? What a lovely name. What? What's the matter? No, wait, this can't be. Did you just say that your name is Wilson? What's the matter with Susato? Why is she so flustered all of a sudden? Yes, that's right. And what are your names? Oh, I'm Ryunosuke Naruhodo, a lawyer from Japan. Oh, sorry. I'm Mr. Naruhodo's judicial assistant Susato Mikotoba. It's wonderful to meet you. Lovely. Susie and Runo. Got it. Oh, that's a nice way to shorthand it. Susie and Runo? There's more to this girl than meets the eye. I have so many questions for her, I don't know where to start. Yes, and so do I. Is she supposed to be this version of Watson? Alright, Iris. It was you that we ran into yesterday, wasn't it? At the Old Bailey? Yes, that's right. You were ever so helpful. Thank you so much. Oh no, not at all. I'm so sorry we couldn't have been more welcoming. Though at the time, we did have a rather large gun pointed at us. Like this? Yeah. Ah, thinking back now, you left with Miss Lestrade in tow, didn't you? Oh yes, that awkward witness, Gina Lestrade. Oh, Ginny? Yes, she's a professional pickpocket. So we found out. It was very naughty of her to pinch my invention like that. Are you referring to the child disrupting gun-like contraption? Exactly, so I followed her, you see, to get it back. Perhaps I should think about fitting a self-destruct mechanism in my inventions. This girl is dangerous. Anyway, I brought Ginny back here after that, so she could apologize to my trusty technician. Sorry, your technician? Hurley, of course, silly. Hurley. Yes, Herlock Sholmes, we live here together. I had no idea the great detective has such an interesting young daughter. Daughter? Not likely. What? I wouldn't call him Hurley if he was my father, would I? Well then, what is your relationship with Mr. Sholmes? Well, I expect you found out that lodgings of any kind in London are very expensive. So the solution is to share the cost with a partner, a roommate. Your roommates. I hope you don't mind me asking, Iris, but how old are you? 10 at last this year. Well, what of your mother and father? Oh no. Oh, I missed out on that. Let's see. I wonder what the story is there. By Wilson. Oh yes, there's something I must ask you. Of course. Go ahead, Susie. I am a very great fan of the adventures of Herlock Sholmes and... Oh, you have a copy of Rand's magazine. Yes, I have read every issue. It's delivered all the way to Japan on a ship. Oh, this is so exciting. My stories are being read on the other side of the world. My stories? That's right. Hurley is always solving such amazing cases, you see, and he tells me all about them. They really are quite fascinating. It would be such a shame if I was the only one who ever heard them, don't you think? Goodness. Last night he was telling me all about a new case he just solved on a steamship traveling from a faraway land. So I was just in the middle of typing up the manuscript for the next issue before you came. I really hope she didn't write Naruhodo to be incompetent or an enemy. So you are the author? Yes, I'll let you in on a secret if you like. I'm gonna call this latest adventure the Speckled Band. The Speckled Band. That's certainly very familiar. Of course, I always change one or two details in the stories here and there. This time, I had the idea of making a venomous snake be the cause of all the trouble. Oh, that was Mr. Shum's first thought as well, actually. Yes, and of course, I know that a snake might not be a credible fit for the facts of the case exactly, but... it's a story. Some poetic license is justified to make it more thrilling, I think, don't you? So, do you mean to say... are the stories about Mr. Shum's that are published in Rand's magazine all written by me, yes, on my wonderful and very modern typewriter. But all the stories I've ever read are written by a doctor of medicine, Dr. John H. Wilson. Son's getting more and more worked up. Ah, yes, that's me. I mean, my name really is Wilson. But what about the doctor of medicine part? That's all true too. I am a doctor of medicine. No, at 10 years old? At 10 years old. Well, that's quite incredible. But, Dr. Wilson is an English gentleman. Ah, yes. I did alter the setting slightly for the stories to be more compelling. Oh. Well, it sounds a little strange, doesn't it? A great detective with a 10-year-old girl in tow? I suppose it does, yes. Poor Susato-san, she looks like her whole world has just fallen apart. Your deductions just now. About before. Yes? What's in your mind, Bruno? Do tell me. How did you know that I was a lawyer and we just arrived in London, I mean? Yes. Oh, and that we have a difficult trial tomorrow. How did you know all that? Oh, that's what you mean. Please, tell us how you did it. Explain every detail. Of course, I'd be delighted. Delighted. Although there's really no mystery. Now let's begin. Iris Wilson is proud to present her logic and reasoning spectacular. Oh, so she has that too. First of all, I knew already that you were a lawyer, Bruno. After all, I met you yesterday at the Old Bailey in the defendant's antechamber. But you also said that we'd only just arrived in London. How did you know that? I observed the passport and travel ticket protruding from your breast pocket. Oh, so I was reasonably confident that you must have only just arrived in the country. And on top of that, you accepted a case against a particular prosecutor, telling me you were unaware of London's court affairs. The Reaper of the Bailey. I walked right into that one, didn't I? Then I noticed a red ink stamp on the back of Susie's hand. You were given that when you visited the local prison to meet with a suspect, weren't you, earlier today? Ah. They used those stamps to keep a close eye on comings and goings, you see. I didn't realize. And a red stamp is only used for people visiting foreign inmates. So, that told me that even though you had only yesterday concluded the trial of Magnus McGilden, that the two of you had already caused to visit a foreign inmate at a local prison. However, neither of you was wearing a particularly sad expression on your face. So I concluded that the prisoner was unlikely to be a friend or a relative. That led me to believe that you must have accepted a new case. Wow. I see. But how could you have known that the trial is tomorrow? Well, having barely been home a few hours yesterday, Hurley solved yet another case. It obviously amused him. He told me that he caught a Japanese man who was bawling and trembling. A Japanese man? Well, clearly that must have been... Mr. Natsume. Now, Bruno has that fancy Japanese sword. And I think your outfit is called a kimono, isn't it, Susie? Well, anyway, it was clear to me that you both came from Japan yourselves. So I put two and two together and decided you must be defending the Japanese man Hurley caught. And there was only one conclusion those facts could lead me to. You both came here to ask Hurley about the case. There's a note on the mantelpiece that says the man's trial will be tomorrow. Hurley's always stabbing his notes with a knife, you know. He is silly. And that's all there was to it, really. Thank you for listening. I'm Iris Wilson, and that was one of my great deductions. It's like she's advertising a commercial. Well, was it a winner? Were my deductions correct? They were spot on. That was amazing, Iris. Truly a great deduction. You even managed to ascertain something of Mr. Sholmes' delivery. Oh, well, I was just copying Hurley's style for that. This is really good news. You could tell us all about the case involving the Japanese man. You will, won't you, Iris? Please? The case of the Japanese man. So yesterday, Mr. Sholmes apprehended a Japanese man, you were saying. Yes. Hurley had just arrived back in London after his sea voyage, but the police were waiting for him at the railway station to take him directly to the crime scene. Ah, the great detective is a popular man, it seems. Apparently, a woman was stabbed on a quiet street somewhere in town. There were witnesses who had been short, shifty-looking, stooped man running away from the scene. A short, shifty-looking, stooped man. Mr. Natsume beyond any doubt. Soseki-san said that he didn't see anybody else in the street at all, but it seems there were witnesses after all. Hurley used his great deductive powers to determine the man's address. It was a lodging room very nearby. He went directly there with the police, and what did they find? A short, shifty-looking, stooped man shivering in fear. Mr. Sholmes' great deduction certainly hit the mark that time. Of course it did. He's a great detective. Still, that means the incident occurred only 2 days ago. Surely tomorrow's too soon for the trial, isn't it? Definitely. We have no time to investigate properly. Hurley says that London is rife with crime. Oh, Scotland Yard is doing its best, but they can't stay on top of it apparently. Oh dear, I hadn't realized the situation was so dire. That's why they can't afford to spend too much time investigating cases and trying the criminals in court. Staff and money are both short. Crimes are usually pinned on the first suspicious person. That's terrible. I suppose it's the harsh reality of the workings of the world's greatest justice system. I suppose it is. But in that case, I don't hold out much hope for Soseki-san. Thank you for answering so many of our questions, Iris. This has been very informative. Oh, you're most welcome. I've had so much fun. Do you happen to know where Mr. Sholmes is at the moment? As you guessed, we'd like to ask him some questions about this case as well. Ah, well, I expect Hurley is still investigating the scene. Of the case involving Mr. Natsume, you mean? Yes, Mr. Natsume. Hurley said he's going to the man's lodgings. If you leave now, you'll probably catch him there. Iris, do you know where those lodgings are? Well, I imagine the police are still investigating the scene of the crime themselves, aren't they? Did you happen to come across a detective by the name of Gregson when you were there? Yes, we know Inspector Gregson. Ah, goody. In that case... Give Gregson this for me, would you? If you do that, I'm sure he'll tell you what you want to know. What is this? A 5-shilling piece and a postcard, it seems. Iris's postcard has been entered into the court record. It reads, "Tell the gentleman in black whatever he wants to know. I trust that won't be a problem." Gosh, this will make the inspector help us, will it? Well, thank you, Iris. We'll give it a try. Good luck then. I'm going to return to writing my manuscript, The Speckled Band. And I'll be making more special blends of tea, so come back again soon. We'd be delighted. Thank you so much, Iris. Well, Mr. Naruhodo, it's back to the scene of the crime. So, somewhat dubious that they would exert any influence over the men of Scotland Yard at all, we headed back to the scene with Irish security's note and one of the world's heaviest silver coins in hand. Oh, to be continued. Alright, let's save this. Okay, February 19, 238 Briar Road. It looks as though the police are still here carrying on with their investigation. Perfect, so let's find Inspector Gregson as quickly as possible. Yes, and let's see if he'll take a break from his chips to look at the silver tip Iris gave us for him. Hold on a second. Back. And go. Inspector Gregson, do you have a moment? I'm sorry to say I don't. I'm a very busy man. Much too busy to talk to a pair of foreign gadabouts, that's for sure. We have these for you. A present from Miss Iris Wilson. What? For me? From her ladyship? Her ladyship? Get that here at once. Come on, hand it over. That's for me. Ah, don't wait for me to give it to you, will you? What was that coin exactly? It's a silver crown, obviously, but it's a lot more than that. It's, well, it's an appearance fee. Appearance fee? That's what it is. An appearance fee? Oh, I see, you mean... That's right, for the adventures of Herlock Sholmes. Her ladyship always offers me a little financial reward for featuring me every time. Yes, yes, of course. I know all about your exploits, Inspector. I read them avidly. I was gonna say vividly. Of course, her using my name without my say-so does make me the butt of a lot of unpleasant jokes, but still. I'm sorry, Inspector. That must be difficult for you. Never mind that. So, what do you want to know then, huh? Sorry? Tell the gentleman in black whatever he wants to know. I trust that won't be a problem, it says. Well, obviously it's not a problem. Go on, fire away. What do you want to know? Well, if you wouldn't mind, Inspector. We'd very much like to know the address of Mr. Natsume's lodgings. Ah, the little knife-wielding mustache Japanese fellow. He lives in a right old hovel. It's just over here. Look. On the first floor of that house in the corner where that wreck of bicycles propped up. That is nearby indeed. If I remember rightly, the landlord is Mr. John Garrideb. Right, well, if you see her again, you make sure you give her ladyship my regards, you hear? I mean it, you tell her that Gregson sends his very best wishes. Don't worry, Inspector, we will. Goodbye for now, then. And long live her ladyship. Okay. Well, at least he told us what we wanted to know before he left. Yes. So then, shall we go and see what we can find in Mr. Natsume's lodgings? Definitely. Okay, let's go. February 19, Mr. Natsume's lodgings. Whoa. May I help you? Yes. Would this be the residence of Mr. John Garrideb? Indeed it would, sir. And who may I say is calling? My name is Ryunosuke Naruhodo. Mr. Naruhodo is representing Mr. Soseki Natsume. I believe he takes lodgings here. We would very much like to ask him some questions about our client. What is with that reaction? One moment, please. I shall convey the message to Mr. Garrideb. Did you see that, Mr. Sato? That was a real-life English maid. I know. As I understand it, anyone of standing in English society employs a number of household staff. But that was the first time I've ever seen one in the flesh. Oh, this day keeps getting better. It certainly feels like we've really arrived now, doesn't it? We need only to meet a butler and the experience will be complete. Well, I'm not sure if I'd go that far, but I understand the sentiment. Thank you for waiting. Mr. Garradev will see you now. This way. Of course. Good day to you, John Garradev at your service. Pleased to meet you, sir. This is oh wow, I can't even say his name now. Ryunosuke Naruhodo. He's a defense lawyer. Do excuse me not getting up. Took a shot to the knee a few years back in the Battle of Maiwan, don't you know? Earned the medal for my pains, but had to withdraw from service. Handed over the reins to the up-and-comings. So he's a retired soldier, huh? Alright guys, I'm gonna have to end the video here for today. Thank you all for watching. Until the next one.